But again, it goes back to the idea of you had to be there, you know, like that way you can understand and appreciate, and also, you can associate with what's going on, because you've been there, and obviously you were around back then, you knew what it was like, and you can relate to it. And I think that's the appeal of Goosebumps for 90s kids. Um, but yeah, it's again, sorry to repeat myself, but it's a really great nostalgia trip being able to go back and watch these. Like, and I genuinely stand by that. It's damn close to a time machine. It's a great way to go back and relive it. But yeah, but again, that's calling all creeps, and yeah, another great thing about Goosebumps, seeing 90s high school on TV is, you always get like the locker rooms, well, not locker rooms, the lockers along the hallway, and that's great, isn't it? It's such a 90s thing, and again, as something that happens in Calling All Creeps that was a common occurrence in a lot of there was always stuff going down around the lockers, like uh, someone breaking into someone's locker and leaving a message in paint on the back of the locker door. They have it in Calling All Creeps, and also they do a similar thing in the Phantom of the Auditorium. But again, when you think about it, how the hell did they manage to do that? Wouldn't anyone have noticed? Someone breaking into someone's locker with a tin of paint and a brush, painting a message on the back of someone on the back of the locker door. Wouldn't someone have been the slightest bit suspicious? I mean, where the hell was the janitor during all of this, But again, you just go with it because it's Goosebumps and it's awesome. Yeah, if you take anything away from Goosebumps, take this. The 90s are awesome. Yeah. But again, we mentioned in that episode, Phantom of the Auditorium. That's a great episode, and it's one that I always remember, sticks in my mind. And I genuinely think this was one of the iconic ones. A blatant rip-off of Phantom of the Opera, yeah, but again, this is Goosebumps and this is the 90s, so we're just going to go with it. We're just going to go ahead and do it anyway. Yeah, and again, one of the, we've mentioned how not all Goosebumps, some of the Goosebumps episodes varied in quality, and when you considering they made so many of them, you expect that, they're not always going to hit the mark each time. But this one did, in my opinion. This had one of the best twists, when at the end, when it's the opening night of the school production, and we find out it was actually a ghost who played the Phantom on the opening night, and we find out at the end it was the ghost of the boy who was going to play the part in the original production, but of course went missing. So he finally got his wish to play that part. Again, a really good twist, and it does. When you're looking at the old school yearbook and you see his picture, that's him. It does genuinely make you feel creeped out. So yeah, that was one of the best episodes, I think, Phantom of the Auditorium, and that's one I want to talk about. Welcome to Horrorland, or A Day at Horrorland. Again, one of the ones that stuck with me, and one of the ones I can remember really well watching when I was watching the reruns on TV. Again, like Calling All Creeps, it's pretty ridiculous. It is. It seriously is. But again, you just go with it, you know. You know, so when you look at some of the episodes, you've got to think, well, what must the board meeting have been like, you know, when they were selecting which Goosebumps stories to make into TV episodes, you know. The planning for these Goosebumps episodes must have been amazing. Like the pre-production, I remember thinking, if I could go back in time, just, you know, I'd want to be there for the entire thing of Goosebumps, the TV show. I'd want to be there for the pre-production. I'd want to be there for the filming, and I'd want to be there for the post-production, because it would have just been an absolute joy to witness. Yeah, but yeah, One Day at Horrorland, I think that's one that a lot of people remember, you know. That's a pretty iconic one. And another one that I've got to mention is, of course, The Headless Ghost. That's a fantastic one, that. I always have difficulty remembering which season that was a part of, because obviously it was one of the earlier ones. I always seem to think it was part of either the back end of the first season, or at some point. Yeah, there we go, season 2, episode 5, The Headless Ghost. It's just that I always think that stuff that was made in 1996 has that really 90s feel about it. And I remember The Headless Ghost had a really 90s feel about it, so I thought it must have been around then, and sure enough it was. But yeah, that's a pretty, again, I think one of the best and most iconic ones. Yeah. When you watch it for the first time, it's some genuinely creepy story, you know. When that bit as well, here are the portraits along this up the staircase of all the people who have lived in, who have dared to live in this house. They've all met with a bad end, and you think, Jesus Christ. Yeah. Some of the plots of these Goosebumps stories could be made into full horror movies, but again, I'll touch on that a bit later on. But yeah, this was a really good episode, and a really dark ending as well, you know, because it ends with a couple actually buying the house, and we find out that, or we realise that the guy selling the house to them was the sea captain who died, you know, and it ends with him doing this really evil smile at the camera, and he closing the doors to go, and you think, well, that's the last we'll see of that couple. Yeah, they're not going to get out of that house alive, you know. But some of as I'll get back to, some of the Goosebumps episodes have really dark endings. But again, because it was the 90s, we're just going to let that slide. Yeah, the censorship didn't really get, yeah, fine. And the makers of them, nah, it'll be fine. But again, you've got to love this show for doing that. Again, when we're talking about episodes that have a really 90s feel to them, you've got to talk about that one, Be Careful What You Wish For, which, if I remember rightly, was the first episode of Season 2. Yep, first episode of Season 2 aired, I believe, on the 10th of August of 1996. Be Careful What You Wish For. This was, I think, was the most 90s Goosebumps episode. It really had that 90s feel to it. And you know, I mean that in the best way possible. This was amazing, right? this was amazing. You know, you've got to love it though. In these scenes of the episode that take place in the gym during the basketball matches, so 90s, and that awesome music they have in the background that you'd expect to hear on a 90s sports commercial. Absolutely fantastic. But again, you've got to love it. You really, really have got to love it. You know, it's something that makes this episode stand out to me. How 90s this episode was, and you know, it's a genuinely good episode. Because you really feel for the main character. You know, the frustration of well, how specific do you have to be, for God's sake, when you're making a wish? But again, it's something we can all relate to, because when we think, it'd be nice to have 3 wishes, but we don't think, about how much detail and how specific we'd have to be. But this episode, it's something this episode does a good job of conveying. You have to be careful what you wish for. And she plays a good part, doesn't she? The actress playing Clarissa, who grants the wishes. Cause I tell you what, she was really good. How sinister do you want to be? Again, horror movie level, genuinely is. I have to wonder, when they were making this, did they actually make it, did they actually film it as a kids show? I have a feeling they didn't. They just went, let's see how far we can push it and see what happens. But again, you gotta love it. You've really gotta love it. But I stand by that. Goosebumps is a lot better than stuff that's shown on kids' TV now. It really, really is. And I think there are a lot of people that would agree with me. It's amazing. I'm sorry. This is, jumping from one episode to another. But that one as well. One of the early episodes, I think it was one of the early episodes on season 1. The Girl Who Cried Monster. Librarian turns into a monster. Honestly, the transformation sequence when he turned into a monster was horrifying. It was horrifying. Again, it's something that could have been in an actual horror movie. And at the end, when the girl's parents turn out to be monsters and they transform and actually eat the librarian, which again, a hell of a twist and a really dark ending, and they all laugh about it afterwards. Jesus Christ. But again, when you watch it for the first time, and if you haven't read the book, it's a hell of a surprise when that happens. Again, an example of a really dark Goosebumps ending. That transformation sequence when the librarian transformed from a human into a monster. And I say monster because I don't think it's ever elaborated on what type of monster he's supposed to be. The title certainly doesn't. But horrifying. It's something that's it's something that stays with you. It really does. That was a good episode, wasn't it? Attack of the Mutant. Was it Attack of the Mutant? It was either Attack of the Mutant. Attack of the Mutant, not Revenge of the Mutant. That must have been either season 2 or 3. I don't know. It one or the other. But yeah, that was a really, and like I say, with that bizarre cameo from Adam West, I don't know what the hell he was doing there, but fair enough. Just go with it as the galloping gazelle. Yeah, but like I say, you know, that happened. But yeah, that some great green screen effects in Attack of the Mutant when they go into his lair. You know, but again, you can't hold it against this show because you know, you just go with it. But yeah, when we talk about iconic and brilliant Goosebumps episodes, I think the one I'm about to mention, everyone would agree with me. Piano Lessons Can Be Murder. Arguably my favourite Goosebumps episode. I love that one. Absolutely brilliant. Yeah, well, I mean, like I say, when I think of Goosebumps, that's one of the first things I think of. Piano Lessons Can Be Murder. Yeah, the Shriek School. It's I'm Dr. Shriek. You know, it's yeah, the name's a real attention getter. Yeah, turns out to be a robot as well. You know, hey, there's technology's gone back over. You could have fully functional robots back in the 90s. Yeah, but again, you just go with it. You do not question this for a second. Yeah. So it's absolutely again. You really have to see that scene to believe it. When Dr. Shriek's chasing Jerry through the hallway and down the stairs, go like spinning round in circles. Hands, beautiful hands. Honestly. And then when Mr. Toggle turns out to be the mastermind behind it all, you know, Jesus Christ, it's just one thing after another. Also, this episode contains one of my favourite lines from one of my favourite quotes ever when I can't remember. It's either when Jerry's struggling with Dr. Shriek or right after when he finds out that Mr. Toggle is the one that you know, and they're having like, you know, Jerry's trying to get away, and they're struggling, and either Dr. Shriek or Mr. Toggle says, you know, I want your hands. They're exquisite. But while they're struggling, you just overhear. It's like when it's in a wide angle shot and they're both going back and forth. You just overhear Jerry say, "I need my hands." That line is amazing. Honestly, it's something that always makes me chuckle. Yeah, but no, that it's an episode I have a great love for. But that's creepy as well. Imagine waking up in the middle of the night, right? Pitch black. You hear Moonlight Sonata playing on the piano from downstairs. The piano playing by itself. You just freak, you know? I don't know if I could get up and go down in the basement to investigate, and then that's a pretty horrific shot, isn't it? The way they did the ghost in this one, the ghost of the old piano teacher. Really creepy. And that, again, it's just a weird shot when she sat there playing the piano. Yeah, but again, this show did a great job of creating some genuinely creepy imagery. One of which was that shot. Yeah, but yeah. Honestly, you wake up in the middle of the night, hear the piano playing downstairs, the Moonlight Sonata. That, I mean, if that wasn't a creepy enough piece of music on its own, hearing that in the middle of the night in the pitch black, you know, don't go and investigate. You just turn back over and go right on back to sleep, because nothing good can come of you going to investigate that. But yeah, a great episode. And that bit at the end when Jerry escapes from the school and his mum and dad are there in the car and he just jumps in and yells drive, and then the ghost just what the hell was that shot? Because obviously the doors are blown wide open, all this paper blown all over the place, the wind's getting off, and then the ghost just like flies out the door and it's just like this real heavy close up on the camera, and the mum and dad freak. What the hell was that shot all about? I thought the ghost was supposed because the ghost shows up and saves Jerry from Mr. Toggle and lets him escape. What was that though? Just wanting to scare the hell out of him for one final time, just for good measure. But again, you just go with it. Yeah. Goosebumps is amazing, and I'm sure a lot of people feel the same way. Yeah, so there was that. Again, sorry I haven't, when you're talking about all these episodes, a lot of people know about all these already, so you don't have to go into detail. People who've watched the show, these episodes you'll be able to remember, you don't need me to go into detail. But yeah, I think I'm getting to the end of this, the episodes I want to mention, but there is a couple more. One of which, do you remember that one, the haunted house game? I loved that one. Yeah, again, quite an original concept, really. But again, some genuinely creepy imagery in that one. But it was good because obviously it's effectively like a board game and they have to play, they have the dice but there is one particular part of that of that episode that sticks with me and was a genuinely creepy shot. And it's that goddamn ghost of that fisherman. Because I think it's either him or some sort of old sea captain. But do you remember when they're looking for the compass and there's that dead skeleton there, and like he's in some sort of he must have been some sort of naval officer. Well, no, I think it was just the sea captain really. But yeah, they have to search this skeleton. You think, Jesus Christ, this is a kid's show. Yeah, but honestly, if censorship boards were the way they are now, is the way they were, if the censorship boards of the 90s were the censorship boards we had today, PG-13 would be no problem at all. Because the guys at the censorship board, younger audience can handle that, don't worry about it. Yeah, but yeah, searching through the skeleton, I think there's one bit where they tilt the skeleton back and he just head just leans really far back in the chair. Jesus Christ. But yeah, because I think that's what they're searching for, aren't they? The compass. But then the ghost of this fisherman arrives on a ship, and one of the because obviously there's the guy and there's the girl, and the guy. Yeah, when he gets caught up in that fishing net and the fisherman's reeling it in, and the guy's screaming, and you think, and that the ghost of the fisherman's doing that really evil laugh, and he's got all that long soaked hair, and he's got that like a hood up, so you don't know who the hell or what the hell is under that hood. You can't see his face, which makes it even, it's a good technique that in horror movies, and it's something that's really unnerving, when whatever it is, but well, like I say, you see in this, and also like in The Ring as well. When she shows up and she's got all the hair covering her face. That is a really frightening visual, because there is no animation, nothing on, no facial features on display. Um, you know, that is quite a scary thing. You know, that sometimes could be scarier than any sort of scary mask or anything. Even like, so scarier than like Jason Voorhees or Michael Myers mask, or even like even Freddy Krueger's burnt face. If just like long black hair covering the face, that is a really frightening thing. And I think they do that in The Grudge as well, if I'm not mistaken. But really, 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 well, definitely unnerving. But yeah, that's something that always sticks in my mind. The ghost of that fisherman in the haunted house game, and really nearly gets him as well when he's reeling the line in. Yeah, and like I say, that evil laugh he was doing didn't help matters either. But yeah, and that episode ends really darkly as well, because the two main characters do manage to escape from the house and escape the gate, complete the game and escape the house, and then it ends because, do you remember the way it starts is there's that girl crying and says she's lost a cat and it ran into the house, and that's the way the episode ends as well, because our main characters escape, and then it kind of goes full circle because that girl's there again, and two new kids come and say, "What's wrong?" And again says, "My cat ran in there." So we're starting over. And anyway, the kids enter the house, and then it cuts back to that girl doing that really evil grin to the camera. And again, really dark ending, because that could very well have been the last we saw of those two kids that went in there. We don't know if they'll make it out alive, like fortunately our main characters were able to do. We don't know if these new kids will be as lucky. But again, because that was the thing, because with each episode, or usually being its own story, we never hear anything else about previous episodes, so we never hear any more about the haunted house game. So yeah, those two kids that went in at the end could have very easily been stuck there and killed. So very dark. The penultimate episode I'd like to talk about really is, again, continuing on this theme of really, really dark endings, and I'm sure you guys will agree, The House of No Return. Jesus Christ. That really is horror movie level, really. Some of the stuff in that is horror movie level. They could take that concept and make a genuine horror movie about it, really. This is up there with James Wan stuff. The Conjuring, Insidious, this is up there. And because of course, there's that group of kids who have formed their own society, and this new kid arrives who they befriend and say, "Do you want to join our club?" And obviously what you need to do to become a member is you need to spend, I think it's an hour in this house that's supposed to be haunted, because obviously there were a married couple who used to live there. The husband built the house for the wife. She got pregnant and the child died, miscarriage basically, and the wife killed herself, and the husband died from grief, and their spirits are said to haunt this house, and no one else has ever lived there. So yeah, if you spend an hour in this house, then you can become a member. And obviously, our main character initially declines, but then they managed to trick him and get him in there and lock him in there, and then that's where things get really, really scary. When he's locked in there. But yeah, basically, the episode ends with because we see the ghosts. Oh yeah, we see the ghosts. Their unveiling is spectacular, and honestly, the ghosts of the husband and wife are absolutely terrifying. Honestly, the effects and makeup department, the hair and makeup guys, effects, costumes, they were really dressing those two ghosts up for an actual horror movie. Yeah, because they end up making a deal with the guy who's been locked in there, saying, if you let me go, you can have the three kids who are waiting outside, because they even say, the ghost of the husband and wife say, we love children, so they make that deal, and like I say, the hour passes, and of course the other three go in to look for our main character, who's obviously escaped and to safety. And while they're in there, when they come back, they look around, don't find him, of course. And then when they come to leave, they find that the door's been boarded up. There's been planks of wood hammered, over the door, blocking the door. They're trapped in the house now. And then the episode ends with obviously the ghost showing up again, and they explain what's happened, and then they say, so you three are gonna stay with us forever. And yeah, if you've seen this, you know what I'm talking about, and if you haven't, you really have to see this to believe it, because like I say, they say you're going to stay with us forever, and then they both start laughing maniacally, and got their arms outstretched, and we've got the three kids in the middle, they're either side, and they're closing in on them. Jesus Christ. Honestly, a really horrific visual. Particularly the ghost of the wife. I mean, the ghost of the husband, he's, whoa. But the wife is, he's got nothing on the wife. The wife looks horrific. Yeah. Jesus. No, I'll tell you how this episode ends, and this is the darkest ending to a Goosebumps episode. Well, is it? Is it really? Sorry, this isn't the penultimate episode. There's one or two episodes more I'd like to sorry guys, this is all over, but again, you guys who are familiar with the series, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah, the way this episode ends, one of the darkest episode endings ever. Like I say, they're closing in on these three kids, arms outstretched, laughing maniacally. You're gonna stay with us forever. Again, close up on the face of the husband, wide-eyed laughing. Close up on the face of the wife, wide-eyed laughing. Jesus Christ, that's horrifying. Cuts to an exterior shot of the house. Later on, and of course it's completely pitch black. Then we hear, because obviously the three kids that go in, there's a girl and two guys. We hear the girl scream at the top of her lungs, and a bolt of lightning strikes the roof of the house, and we cut to credits. That is the way that episode ends. So basically, those three kids have been strangled by by the ghost of that married couple. I don't know what to say. This is not a kid. This is at the point where it stops becoming a kids' TV show. This is up there with horror movie standards. 3 of the main characters did not make it out. Alive. Honestly, they were never heard from again. Not at all. Absolutely not. Not a chance. And that's the way you're going to end an episode of a kids' TV show. That's absolutely amazing. 4 spooky seasons in one set. Bit of an understatement. Where characters get murdered. Actually murdered. It's off screen, yeah, but it still happens. 4 spooky seasons in one set. Spooky. Understatement. Jesus Christ, TV show, come on. Jesus Christ. Yeah, but again, because this is Goosebumps, you just forgive this show anything, you know. Yeah. Absolutely amazing, and that's why I love this show. But yeah, you can't get much darker than that. 3 kids trapped between 2 ghosts, closing in on them, arms stretched, you're gonna stay here with us forever, laughing maniacally. Exterior shot of the house, girl screams, lightning strikes, credits. Jesus Christ. What were these guys thinking? I want to know how the hell they got away with it. Well, I know how they got away with it because it's the 90s and they said we're just going to roll with it. Honestly, but again, sorry I jumped to it, but again, when the main character has been stuck in, has been locked in the house by those 3 kids outside, and he's in there on his own, they do a really good job of creating a really tense, creepy atmosphere. Because again, it's just him in a really old house on his own, locked in. It's got that silence, where you think any minute, the silence is going to break. And it's really dark, so you can only see partial. You can't, and when you hear that dialogue from the ghosts of the married couple, saying, "We're coming down, we're here," you think, Jesus Christ, it really is tense. But yeah, that's the House of No Return. Again, one of the most iconic episodes for obvious reasons. And then, of course, sorry, because again, you gotta love live recordings. I'm sorry, everybody. Because we're getting to the end, but there are I think there were 3 episodes I wanted to talk about. Well, certainly there was Attack of the Jack-o'-lanterns. Jesus Christ. There was one particular, because obviously Attack of the Jack-o'-lanterns, it's set on Halloween, and of course there's this girl and a friend are bullied by this other girl and her friend, and obviously they want to get their own back. Unfortunately, 2 of the main girl's old friends show up to come visit her, especially for Halloween. And again, and also there's that subplot of these people in a nearby, from somewhere nearby had recently gone missing, and then of course on Halloween, the main girl and her friend team up with her old friends to get their own back on these 2 bullies. And then at the end, we find out that her 2 old friends who came to visit were actually aliens. I don't know where the hell that came from, but again, we're just gonna go with it. We're just gonna let that one slide, alright? there were aliens all along, right? You know, we suspected something was up when, you know, they were able to morph into like these jack-o'-lantern creatures with crab claws, and were able to fire beams of lightning from their, you know. But yeah, again, sorry to jump all up, because again, that's what happens. They take, you know, the bullies to this neighbourhood, you know, and then turn nasty and say, you know, you have to stay here and trick or treat forever. And obviously the bully and her friend just run off in a, you know, in a frenzy. And then obviously the main girl says, "Oh, thanks for helping us get our own back." And yeah, I don't get it. The main girl's completely unfazed by the fact that her two friends are aliens. Her other friend who obviously had never met these two. He's completely freaked out, as you know, understandably so. You know, he had the normal reaction. I don't know. I'd love to have seen what happened when the main girl first found out that her two friends, close friends, turned out to be aliens. Or you never know. She might just be a quote unquote cool cat, and she might have just been okay with it. You know. But yeah, it ends with them going back to their spaceship and leaving, but not before we find out that they're the ones responsible for these missing people, and they'd actually kidnapped them, killed them, and eaten them. Jesus Christ! How dark do you want to get? So it suddenly went from being very slapsticky, pulling a prank on the bully with these rather humorous looking jack-o'-lantern creatures, and a pretty, you know, it's not the most sinister of pranks, you know, where you're being forced to trick or treat forever, even though it's kind of like kidnap, but you know, yeah, we suddenly got really dark all of a sudden. I'll forgive you if you get whiplash from the mood change. Jesus, we suddenly went dark. So these two alien friends of the main character, was it what, 6 to 8 people gone missing? So they kidnapped, killed, and eaten 6 to 8 people. Wow. Jesus Christ, wow. And it even ends with them with those two actually threatening the main girl and her friend, saying, you know, don't eat too much candy, it might fatten you up, and we will be back next year to feed again. Jesus Christ, they're going to come back and kill her and eat her. Yeah. So that's dark. But believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm sure you guys who know this episode really well would agree with me, that is not the darkest part of this episode. No, not at all. Not by a long shot, actually. And I know what you're thinking, well, how much darker can you get than kidnapping and killing, you know, people? Well, you know, I mean, fair enough, that is dark. But this one is just, it's, you know, you get that in, it's something you're used to seeing in movies, you know, well, not used to, but it's something that comes up, you know, kidnapping, killing, paedophiles. Yeah, that's where this episode goes. Yeah. The main girl, the night before Halloween, you know, when they're gonna pull this prank on these two bullies, we have a dream sequence. Yeah, because we don't realise at first, because the way it cuts from, like, you know, them making the plan of what they're gonna do on Halloween night to what we think is the actual night, and her and a friend meet up with the two bullies, and I think the two aliens who were the main characters' friends, Shane and Shauna. And so the bullies ask, the main girl and her friend, where's Shane and Shauna? And she says, I'm not sure. I think they're just gonna, catch up with us. And the night goes on, and they go to this particular house. They said it's getting late. We're gonna make this 1 hour last one. This old woman answers the door. And she gives them some candy, and she says, your costumes look fabulous. Do you know what? My husband would love to see your costumes. So anyway, she invites them in. They go in, and then things start to get really, really sinister. We're feeling uneasy about this as soon as they're invited to go in, but we go with it, saying, surely they won't pull anything too. But then, the four of them, the two bullies and the main girl and her friend, go in, and the woman who owns the house, she does this really strange, creepy, she's like looking round outside, making sure no one's watching. She's surveying the perimeter. And then you start to think, where are they going with this? And then she closes the door, and she's leading the kids. She's saying, he's upstairs. Go right up. And then we'll go up the stairs, and you're watching, getting more and more uncomfortable. Where is this going? And she says, it's that room there. They go in there. They go in the room, and she follows them in and closes the door behind her. And then anyway, when they look, there are just over a dozen, I would say. And Shane and Shauna are there too. Oh yeah, that's where they got off to. A dozen or so kids, all chained up, screaming and crying for help. And then there's the woman's husband there, who's disfigured, and again, not to be awful, but yeah, again, just if it wasn't creepy enough, he's disfigured, and he's got like a speech impediment, and he's there, and he takes one look at these, and he's like, oh, I love your costumes. And he actually said, yeah, now you're going to have to stay here forever. And yeah, those four start screaming, and the kids in there are already screaming and crying for help. And then she suddenly wakes up from a nightmare, and you think, it was a nightmare. It was a dream. Jesus Christ. But like I said, fair enough, yeah, we realised it was a nightmare, it was a dream sequence, it didn't actually happen, but we're too busy recovering from the shock of what we have just seen. Honestly, I think I'm right in speaking for everyone here, we cannot believe what we have just witnessed, right? Very dangerous, yeah. Really, really dangerous. A kids program that hints at pedophilia. Yeah, kidnapping kids and forcing them to stay there forever. And like I say, you make your mind up as to whether anything sexual would have followed. It could very well have done. It could very well have happened already. We don't know how long some of those kids could have been there. Obviously, Shane and Shauna were the new additions, plus these other four. really frightening. Something that has stayed with me and will continue to stay with me. This is up there with, again, like I say, that the stuff from the House of No Return, you know, and the various other things I've mentioned from Goosebumps, and it's up there with James Wan stuff, Mary Shaw from Dead Silence, the Bride in Black from Insidious, the Bathsheba Witch from The Conjuring. It's in that same league, right? Now, understandably, when I've talked about how when it was rerun in more recent years, one of some of the episodes were edited, one of which was this one, when they had to cut the dream sequence right out of it, and understandably so. Jeez, what were they thinking? R.L. Stein, what were you thinking? Jesus Christ, I cannot believe what they got away with. And I've said this, and I'm sorry to keep repeating myself, but you really have to see this to believe it. You cannot believe the stuff they get away with in this show. But yeah, they cut, when they reran it in more recent years, they cut that. But yeah, that is the most disturbing thing about that episode. The dream sequence, which is strong suggestion of pedophilia. Honestly, you really have to see that to believe it, and genuinely disturbing. So that was Attack of the Jack-o'-lanterns, and I know there's one. I'm just thinking if there's any other episodes that I want to mention before I get on to this final one. Excuse me, sorry. Something might jump out at me off here. That was always a memorable one, wasn't it? Say Cheese and Die Again, with Spider and the killer camera, or the cursed camera. Again, one of Ryan Gosling's early roles in part one of in Say Cheese and Die. And again another. I think Say Cheese and Die is more memorable, or is certainly more well known. I don't think a lot of people remember Say Cheese and Die Again, but you gotta love that, haven't you? The sequel, Say Cheese and Die Again, features an entirely new cast playing the same characters, but you just let it go. Yeah. So yeah, Say Cheese and Die Again, two great episodes. Again, I like both, and probably a lot of people do, but I think obviously the one of the two that remember, obviously, to Say Cheese and Die, because I have to admit I had kind of forgotten about Say Cheese and Die Again until I came back and rewatched these. Obviously, I remembered the first one, but I'd forgotten a lot about the second one. Oh, of course, you've got to the Haunted Mask 2 again. One of the memorable ones. How could it not be, considering it was the sequel to arguably the most iconic Goosebumps episode, the original one. It's always, it's one, I like both Haunted Mask 1 and 2. I'm not sure which one I prefer though. Because both really good, but hey, that's another dark one. That really is. The Scarecrow Walks at Midnight, where everyone dies at the end, and like I say, those scarecrows are really creepy. Yeah. Do you remember is it a combine harvester that bursts out the shed with and the show ends with it heading straight for the house with where everyone stood looking out the window in shock in terror. Yeah, you're all gonna die, everyone. But anyway, end credits. They're gonna die. Really dark episode, but yeah, kids show that ain't called. Yeah. Yeah. Some of those scarecrows in that episode are really, yeah, really frightening. I mean, if scarecrows weren't frightening and creepy enough already, oh, they come alive at midnight, everyone. Oh, be careful. And when you see him, because the parts where one of the main characters looks out the window and sees him come alive, that's a really creepy shot when you see them hung up on the frames and then they suddenly come alive. That's a really creepy shot. Yeah, that's one as well. A really to touch on. Revenge of the Lawn Gnomes. Jesus Christ, the way that one ends, where they kill the neighbour and turn him into a lawn gnome. What the hell must have happened there? And again, those lawn gnomes, Jesus Christ. I'll never buy lawn gnomes after that. Yeah. Again, a great job on amping up the creepy factor. But again, the way as soon as when they come alive in the dark, that's pretty frightening. And yeah, the fact that they will flat out kill you, as they did to the next door neighbour. All right. Yeah, they'll kill you and turn you into a lawn gnome. That's pretty frightening. Pretty creepy. Yeah, I think. Oh, isn't Click an awesome episode? Yeah, I like to say I'll never watch the Adam Sandler movie the same way again. Now I know that it's a rip-off of a Goosebumps episode. Yeah, Click is such a cool episode, and again a pretty dark ending with the main character just because obviously it's not. He's been dragged out of space and time, hasn't he? Yeah. He's going to be stuck there in darkness for the rest of his life. Jesus, a really dark end. But again, you have to wonder. This was, of course, aimed at older kids, but even so, some stuff is quite disturbing. Some things could pass for horror movies. As I've said, some stuff is genuinely horror movie standards. Yeah, so Click has a really dark ending. Because obviously it's not particularly clear because he's just he's suddenly just everything turns black around him, as if he's just being pulled into another dimension where he's on his own and he's just stuck in isolation now and just left alone for the rest of his life. He's gonna die down there. Well, that's if he doesn't go mad first. Because like I say, he's effectively stuck in isolation. No one's coming to help him. No one else, no one probably will know. You'll never find him. So yeah. But also it's got that really cool moment, because there's a bit where he's having a confrontation with his friend and he pulls out the remote and I think he hits the eject button, doesn't it? And it sends his friend flying into the lockers in the hallway again. They play a major part in these Goosebumps episodes, the lockers. Yeah, and then he does this really awesome, cool, when he flicks the remote and holsters it, and it has that really weird western music playing in the background. Yeah, he said, "Don't try that again." So yeah, that's Click. Yeah, he's really intimidating, isn't he? The guy from Armchair Electronics. He's got a really cold look in his eye. You know, it's not a toy. Jesus Christ. Okay, I'll never touch a remote again. Yeah, and I think that was. Yeah, I guess we should mention that Deep Trouble Parts 1 and 2. Not really going into it, but that was, of course, the final Goosebumps episode. And again, it was a two-parter, and obviously most of the episodes in season 4 of Goosebumps were two-parters. Yeah, obviously, you know, it's the main characters are the niece and nephew of a scientist, and you know, who's been conducting various experiments, and you know, it's resulted in like you know, these sea creatures coming on land and you know, performing experiments on sea creatures, and yeah, you guys know what it's about. And they get stranded on this nearby island, which is inhabited with all these creatures, and they have to escape. Again, not one of the best episodes, I didn't think, but like I say, that was the way. You know, I didn't want to go into this one in great detail, but Deep Trouble, it was the final episode of the Goosebumps show. And it of course ends with the friend of the uncle who turned on them, because he's the one, because they all go over to this island, and then the uncle's friend turns on them and abandons them and takes the boat back to the mainland to leave these guys stranded, and it ends with him being turned into a sea creature. And the last shot of the movie is him on display at like the local carnival, like a quote unquote freak show, you know. But you know, it's such a shame that you know, it was so sad to see the season, to see the show end. And like I say, that was the final episode. But the way that ended, it didn't end in any special way. It just ended like a regular episode would, you know, with like the twist end, and obviously him being turned into one of these sea creatures. But yeah, you have to wonder whether they planned that as the final episode, or whether they just, you know, I have to wonder whether it was due to lack of popularity this show ended, because obviously if you look at season 4, it's noticeably shorter than the previous seasons, only 8 episodes. So maybe they did, or maybe they, I don't know, I'm not sure. Sorry guys, sorry, we've kind of lost the energy in this show. Sorry, yeah, but no, it was sad to see it go. And yeah, sorry I haven't gone into great detail on Deep Trouble, but obviously I thought that was worth mentioning, that is the final Goosebumps episode if you wanted to check that one out. But yeah, it's just a shame that they never really finished the show in any special way, you know. It just ended like the season ended just like a regular season would have done. So, but yeah, that was Deep Trouble, and that was the end of the show. So I thought that was worth mentioning. But one of the final episode I wanted to talk about is the most R-rated episode of the bunch. Yeah, you know, this could very well pass for an R-rating. Yeah, the most R-rated episode of Goosebumps. Welcome to Dead House. Jesus Christ. This episode was... yeah, this episode is rough. Yeah. this episode, wow. And this one, like The House of No Return, is genuinely horror movie standard. It really, really is. And if you guys have seen this episode, you know what I'm talking about. This episode is dark. This episode is horrifying. You know, because obviously, basically, this it starts with this family moving into a new neighbourhood, Dark Falls, moving into a new house, and they get moved in, and then they suddenly start to realise that there is something wrong with the people who live in that neighbourhood, who live in that area, and the daughter is because obviously there's the mum, the dad, the daughter, and the son, and the daughter's the main character really, and then obviously the son. Yeah, she starts seeing things instantly. The moment they arrive, she sees someone in the upstairs of the house staring through through the curtain. And that's a creepy imagery. So that's creepy imagery. So already you're thinking, Jesus Christ, we're starting early in this episode, aren't we? Yeah, and things just go from there. Because even the first night that they're in there, she sees because she's looking out of a window, and then out in the hallway, outside her room, this dark figure appears, and she sees it, and he just walks off and disappears. So again, this episode doesn't waste any time amping up the creepiness factor and the horror factor. It is quite possibly the most frightening Goosebumps episode. And genuinely, like The House of No Return, this one is up there with Insidious and The Conjuring. It genuinely is. Like, it's something you would expect to see in Insidious, like it's a dark figure passing, just walking down the hallway. Something you'd see in The Conjuring as well. It really is like that. And I swear to God, there are moments where the music score in this episode obviously does something quite similar to the Insidious score. With that, like those, with like the string instruments doing those screeches on it, just really unsettling. But this episode, this wasn't made for kids, this episode. But yeah, dark figures moving around the house. The daughter gets a visitation one night. Someone actually comes out of the closet and into her room and says, get out while you can. And the daughter freaks, and understandably so, because that scene is terrifying. It really is. And also, if there was ever going to be something which puts you off having a closet in your room, it'd be this. Because, like I say, this figure coming out the closet and standing over you. Because they find there's a hole in the wall. Where in the closet there's a hole in the wall, and anyway the dad repairs it, seals it up. That night, someone trying to get in the house punches straight through it. Jesus Christ, and it's obviously this is all building up to something big. Stuff trying to get in the house. This dark figures walking about the house at night. It's all building up to something big, and honestly, the creepiness factor runs throughout this entire episode. Of course, this was originally shown as a two-parter, but in this box set, it's cut into one 45-minute episode. And even parts where the two kids, the brother and sister, go take like the dog for a walk in, through the town. It's like a ghost town, and the other townsfolk there, they look terrifying, because honestly, all of them are pale and really thin. They look like ghosts. They genuinely do. And then again, you've really got to see, if you're going to watch a Goosebumps episode, this is one to watch. Also, that's another episode I should have mentioned, one that, always sticks in my mind, another two-parter, A Night in Terror Tower. Again, one of the most iconic Goosebumps episodes, and one of the most elaborate Goosebumps episodes as well. Like, really, that one had a budget to it. That was a really big budget thing. I remember when they released that one on video, they had like a special feature, the making of A Night in Terror Tower. This was Goosebumps Make It Big, that episode, and you've got to love how they dressed Canada up to look like London. You got to love that. Picked, found some sort of, really old big building in Canada. Pass it off as the Tower of London. No one will notice. Nah, just roll with it. Yeah. So again, that's an episode that's worth mentioning, and again, if you're looking for a Goosebumps episode to watch, that's probably one to watch, A Night in Terror Tower. But back to Welcome to Dead House. Yeah, a lot of creepy imagery in this one. I've mentioned about the horror. A lot of these Goosebumps episodes are horror movie standards. But if you were going to pick a Goosebumps story to make into a horror movie, it could very well be this one. This, like I say, this is the most R-rated episode, next to The House of No Return. Yeah, and like I say, things just escalate, because we find out that everyone in Dark Falls, other than this family who just moved in, are dead. They're the living dead, because we find this newspaper article about like an accident that happened at the local power plant, chemical plant, and it had killed everyone. And so obviously, it's not explicit. It's not explained what they are, like whether they're ghosts, zombies, because obviously they need to stay out of the sunlight. Again, why they're all pale, and when they attack the family at the end, they say, we need your blood. So it's hinting at vampires, but whether it could be kind of like a mashup between all three, like a ghost, a vampire, and a zombie, like rolled into one. But yeah, that's something you need to see to believe that, where the because how it builds up is the dog goes missing, and so the kids go out to look for it, and the search leads them to the cemetery, where they come across this large group of the townsfolk meeting, and they're talking about, look, we need to feed, so we're going to have to hurry up and attack this house. And the kids get spotted, the old cliche, one of them steps on a twig and it breaks, and everyone looks around, what's that? Oh, it's them. And a chase ensues. Yeah, they chase them back to the house. Because what's happening is the two of the neighbours who came over to visit, who had befriended the family when they moved in, so they were in there, and the kids get back and say, look outside, we're being chased, we need a barrack. And then the two neighbours play along, you know, that they're not part of the living dead, because the parents are freaking saying, what the hell's happening? And then the two neighbours go, it's the living dead. And then they explain, you know, a result of the accident at the energy plant, the power plant. And so they say, we need to barricade the doors and windows. So they do that. And obviously, really horror movie imagery to see all the dead townspeople at the window, just hammering on the window, and then one of the neighbours says, it's that thing above the fireplace, because the mother and father had hung this sort of wreath above the fireplace, and the mother was saying, you know, it's a good luck charm. And the neighbours were saying, it's not good luck at all, it's evil. So they proceed to burn it, they throw it in the fire, and then we think all the townspeople, that finally destroys them. But oh no, a couple of seconds later, they're back up, hammering on the windows and doors even harder this time. And the mum and dad, the kids, like, it didn't work. And then the neighbours finally change and reveal themselves to be undead as well, and say, you just burnt your last bit of protection. Honestly, the way the woman delivers that line, that's a genuinely creepy line, the way it's delivered in the episode. Yeah, you just burnt the last thing that was keeping you safe. And they even say, because that's what all these occurrences had been, like, you know, trying to get in the house, and the dark figures being seen in the house, you know, they've been trying to get in, but they say obviously we've been unable to because of that wreath protecting you, acting as good luck. And they even say, if it hadn't been for that thing, we'd have been in here on the first night and you would have been dead. So yeah, all of the townspeople finally managed to break in. They chase the family up into the attic. And again, this is really intense. Again, this is horror movie level, this. And they finally corner him, and they grab hold of the mum, they grab hold of the dad, and they go to quote unquote feed on them. Again, I think that's it's a really strong suggestion of vampirism in this. You know, drink and blood, being allergic to sunlight, and so why they've before they managed to feed on the mother and father, the two kids remember that they don't like sunlight, because their dad are running with a group of kids from the town earlier, and basically they said they had to go in because the sun was coming out, so they knew they didn't like the sun. So the way the windows are in the attic, they're all boarded up. So the kids pull the boards down and expose the sunlight, and it kills most of the townspeople. So again, it is a strong suggestion that it was the vampire thing was what they were going for. So they finally managed to escape. They get in the car and they get out of there. They manage to get out of there, and I would like to say I think most of the townspeople were destroyed. And this has a pretty dark ending, actually, because as they're on the way out of town, they see that their dogs, they see the dog on the road that went missing. So they say, oh look, let him in, and then they realise that the dog's been turned into one of the undead. They've got the dog. So yeah, a really dark ending. So, but you know, not as dark as it could have been, because the way that episode was going, they could have, you could easily have conceived of the family not making it out alive and of being turned into members of the undead as well. But fortunately, you know, that didn't happen. So it's kind of like, yeah, we're going for a dark ending. We've killed the dog. We've turned the dog into a member of the undead. But you know, so not as dark as it could be, but we're still keeping it pretty dark. So yeah, that's effectively the ending of that episode. But yeah, that really is, I think, the most frightening episode of Goosebumps ever. Like, some of the imagery, like the dark figures moving around the house at the night, punching, breaking into the house, and that visitation to the daughter during the night. Honestly, it's yeah. But yeah, welcome to Dead House. Yeah. But no, I mean, that's, again, this episode doesn't waste any time. From the moment it starts, you know there is something not right about this place or the people that are residing there. Yeah, but didn't see that coming. Honestly, that's a really horrific. You know, was one of the most horrific parts when they're all when the family are trapped in the house at the end, and you've got all the like vampires, zombies, whatever they are, banging on the doors and windows. Because I think there's like the curtains are closed, you know, so you can only see like the silhouettes, the outlines. So that's pretty. But yeah, the real stinger is like when they burn the wreath and they all seem to die off, and then obviously everything goes calm and quiet, and then when they get back up and it's like Jesus Christ, that's horrific, you know. But yeah, I think really one of the best Goosebumps episodes. You know, one I've got a great love for. You know, like when I bought this box set, sorry, I meant to show you the inside because I showed you the front and back. As you can see, you know, you've got the all the different discs there. Of course, one's still in the machine. There you go. So as you can see, a lot of discs. When I bought this, obviously there were certain episodes I had in mind, like the Haunted House game, Headless Ghost, House of No Return, and of course Welcome to Dead House. You know, but no, honestly, I think this is one of it is one of my favourite box sets, and it's nice. Just whenever I want, I can just watch Goosebumps whenever I want. Just stick it, just watch a couple of episodes, like I was doing last night. Just thought, do you fancy watching Goosebumps? Yeah, let's watch Goosebumps. But yeah, it's something that you've got. It's absolutely fantastic. Anyway, I'm sorry this went on so long, and I'm sorry it's been all over the place. So sorry, when I'm one of those that when I get enthusiastic or when I'm talking about something I do like to jump from, you know, and sorry, there's so many episodes, you know, and just it's so easy to like jump from one to the other. And I'm sorry I haven't gone into the greatest detail, but you know, if you look at my other other reviews, like for movies, the amount of time I talk about a movie, if I was to devote like a video to a particular episode, it would probably take a year to get through this entire show. You know, so but obviously they're all out there to, you know, readily available now, and of course I'm sure a lot of you guys already know these episodes like the back of your hand already, probably even better than I do, really. But you know, certainly when you watch this show, it'll all make sense to you then. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. We finally got there. Welcome to the Dead House was the last episode I wanted to talk about, because again, one of my favourites, and I genuinely think one of the best ones. Certainly the most frightening episode of Goosebumps and the most R-rated. Yeah, but honestly, as I say, you know, the way that episode was going, it's surprising that they didn't kill the family members off, you know, because they could have done it, would not have been out of place. Or even if the kind of, you know, even if they did it in a similar sort of way to the House of No Return, you know, you're never going to hear from those guys again. You know, it would not have been out of place. But yeah, that's pretty much it. You know, just again to reiterate, I absolutely love this show. It's got that brilliant 90s magic to it, and you know, it's such a joy to watch. So I'd like to finally bring this to a close now, and thank you all for watching, of course, and again apologies for this, for the times where this video has been a lot of a mess maybe. I'm sorry for jumping all over the place, but yes, thank you for watching, and thank you for sticking with me, and I hope if you're a fan of the show, you agree with some of the points that I've made. And again, if you haven't seen the show before, I hope maybe it sparked your interest. But yes, thank you for watching, and I will see you all next time. Thank you, everyone.